Ravi Chan Babu Singh, Vice Chancellor of Dhanamantri University. May I request the audience to rise to their seats as a sign of respect. Thank you, sir, for joining us. Please be seated.
नमस्कार ngasi July के ताल मगा इंकुंजा मिशन अमेरिका कुलमगा की याइफरबा इराई नुमित असदा धनवंतरी यूनिवर्सिटी कैंपस ता अहानबा ओइना इंटरनेशनल कॉन्फ्रेंस असिबु मफुंग पाहनबिना अमदी सरुक याबिनबा लेंगिरेबा फाइ पुनमबु आइहाकना सुसिंजरगा सिंजा लांजरिबदि महुत सिंदना इकोक लोलोकना प्रोजेक्ट Amadi Thoram Asida Kanawachachim. A very good morning to everyone present here. It is with immense pleasure and joy that we welcome you all to the inaugural function of the two-day international conference hybrid mode on critical humanities, language, culture and indigeneity, organized by the Department of English, Dhanamantri College of Arts, in collaboration with IQAC, DMCA Imphal, supported by Manipur University English Alumni Association.
Indeed, it is a privilege to have among us esteemed dignitaries, respected faculty members, scholars and enthusiastic participants from across the country and beyond. This academic gathering is a celebration of languages, cultures, and indigenous narratives, and we are thrilled that all of us can be a part of it. My name is MJ Aquilin, and I am one of your hosts.
And I am Khalima Priyadarshini, Research Scholar of the Department of English and Literature. It is a matter of great honor and privilege to welcome the distinguished dignitaries who have graciously accepted our invitation and joined us for this special occasion. May I now invite Professor W. Chandra Singh, Honorable Vice Chancellor of Halimanjari University, and our chief guest to kindly take his seat on the dais. I will also take this opportunity to invite Professor Nandini Sahu, Honorable Vice Chancellor of Hindi University, West Bengal, and our guest of honor to kindly come forward and grace his seat. Ma'am, sir. We are equally honored to welcome Professor Somedev Manik from the Department of English, Tripura University, who joins us today as a guest of honor. I request you to take a seat. It is my pleasure to invite Professor Tapu Biswas of the Bhasha Bhavana Institute of Languages, Literature and Culture, Vishwa Bharati Shantiniketan, to take a seat on the dais. I have the privilege of inviting Professor Rohit Kumar Chandrakant Alaskar, founder and head of the School of Artificial Intelligence, North Shanghai University, Thailand, to kindly join us on the dais. I now invite Professor S. Sanjay Mehta, Principal, Dhanavantari College of Arts, Dean, School of Humanities, Dhanavantari University, to join us on the dais. I will also take this opportunity to extend a warm welcome to our esteemed resource persons who have joined us virtually for this occasion. We are honored to welcome Professor Pratibha Rayani Karnakar, former Director, Department of Modern Languages, Jagannath University, Dhaka, Bangladesh. We are pleased to welcome Dr. Tikaram Paul, Associate Professor, Department of Language Education, Kathmandu University, Nepal, both of whom will be joining us virtually. Welcome, Madam and Sir. We are truly grateful for your presence and participation. In our culture, a warm welcome is often expressed through the traditional token of respect. As a mark of honor and reverence, we now invite Dr. Sundari Irembam, Associate Professor, Department of English at Halimanjari University, and the Organizing Secretary of this conference, to present Dengyan to our distinguished dignitaries. Ma'am, may I request you to present the Dengyan to Professor W. Chandra Singh, Honorable Vice Chancellor of Halimanjari University, and our Chief Guest, as a mark of honor and reverence. Please give a huge round of applause for us. Now, may I now request you to present the Dengyan to Professor Nandini Sahu, Honorable Vice Chancellor of Hindi University, West Bengal, and our guest of honor, token of our deep love and appreciation. I now request Ma'am to present the Dengyan to Professor Somedev Manik from the Department of English at Tripura University, to join us today as a guest of honor.
The Dengyan has been presented to Professor Tapu Biswas, Bhasha Bhavana Institute of Languages, Literature and Culture, and now the Dengyan has been presented to Professor Ranjay Mehta, Principal DMC and Dean at Halimanjari University. Thank you to our esteemed dignitaries for accepting our humble token of appreciation. We now move forward to the ceremonial lighting of the candle. So may I request our esteemed dignitaries to kindly come forward. I request all our esteemed dignitaries to kindly come forward for the lighting of the candle. And I also request Dr. Kajuri Wangju to assist our dignitaries with the lighting. The lighting of the candle signifies the dispelling of darkness and the ushering in of knowledge, wisdom, and new beginnings. But this act goes beyond being merely symbolic. It reflects our collective commitment to enlightenment through education, dialogue, and cultural harmony. As the dignitaries engage in this moment, I also would like to invite each and every one of you to join in spirit and reflect on the possibilities that this conference holds, to reflect on the potential of meaningful discussions that lie ahead, discussions that hopefully will lead us to clarity and insight. May the light that we kindle today symbolize the illumination that emerges from thoughtful discourse, dispelling the darkness of ignorance and doubt. Thank you to our respected dignitaries once again for gracing this moment, and with the light of the candle, we formally inaugurate today's program. We now proceed with the invocation, a moment of spiritual reflection and cultural reverence, and to lead us into the sacred space, we present to you a traditional Penang performance by Narengam Changpongramete. Narengam Changpongramete, I request you to come onto the stage and take your guide.
Iramdam asida nalingay matandagi laishon bijunba amadi thabak thoram ama pangkhakpa matanda thanaba yadraba Penang imaru ga chaijinga miyoi bagi pukling sumaduna ngasipa malaki. And we are honored to present a soulful Penang performance by Narengam Changpongramete, a talented young artist and student of the Mathematics Department at Kilimanjaro University, trained under the renowned Guru Longjam Bishop. Changpongba carries forward the rich tradition of Penang, an ancient musical instrument that embodies the spirit of our heritage. He has been recognized nationally, winning first place at the National Kala Utsav 2023 and Northeast Youth Festival 2024, and has performed before the Honorable Prime Minister during Pariksha Pe Charcha. His performance is a heartfelt prayer to the God of the land, seeking blessings for the prosperity, wisdom, and success of all the participants and the fruitful outcome of this international conference. Rendered in the classical style of Penang singing, the piece weaves together four traditional elements. Sahiho, opening invocation; Thongni roll, which is the narrative expression of the intent; Haishak Langshak, the melodic devotional flow; and Panthoidi Sesa, an invocation to Goddess Panthoidi, who is a symbol of femininity, strength, and harmony. The sacred offering reflects the spiritual and cultural essence of Manipur. Please join me in welcoming Narengam Changpongramete to the stage. A huge round of applause.
Hãy subscribe cho kênh Ghiền Mì Gõ để không bỏ lỡ
That was an incredibly beautiful and soulful performance by Narendra Chandragunda Mete. Thank you so much. You have beautifully grounded this gathering in tradition and reverence. We now move on to the welcome address, and for that, may I now invite Dr. Dhanamanjari Lawarikam, Associate Professor and Head of Department of the Department of English, Dhanamanjari College of Arts, and Conference Secretary to kindly deliver the welcome address.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the Dean College of Arts Imphal, DNU Manipur, I'm deeply honored and humbled to welcome you all to our two-day international conference on critical humanities, language, culture, and indigeneity. A journey towards the NED's policy of evocating a multidisciplinary philosophy to befit today's world, that is the globe, as a singular hub of interconnectedness. And to facilitate the norms of this congregation with the given tasks, firstly, may I take your precious time to take the opportunity to welcome the chief guest of today's function, the respected Vice Chancellor, namely Professor W. Chanbabu Singh, Dhanamanjari University, Manipur, India. Next, may I extend my welcome to Professor Nandini Sahu, Vice Chancellor, Hindi University, West Bengal, India, was gracefully accepted to be the keynote speaker of today's function. Then next, may I take the opportunity to welcome Professor Somdev Bani, who belongs to the Department of English, Tripura University. to Tripura, India. Again, may I welcome Professor Pratibha Rani Karmakar, Director for Modern Languages, who is present online to facilitate the program. Once more, I would like to extend the opportunity to welcome Professor Tapu Biswas, Vasa Bhavana Institute of Languages, Literature and Culture, Viva Bharati, Santiniketan, West Bengal, India. Next, may I again take the opportunity to welcome Dr. Tikaram Paudel, Associate Professor, Department of Language Education, Kathmandu University, Nepal, who is also present online to press the program. Now, may I take again to extend my welcome address to Dr. Rohit Kumar Chandrakant Kalaskar, founder and head, School of Artificial Intelligence, North Chiang Mai University, Thailand. And, of course, the president of today's function, may I take the opportunity to welcome Professor S. Lanchendra Mete, Principal, Dem College of Arts, Imphal, and also Dean, School of Humanities, DMU, Manipur. Once again, I humbly welcome all the dignitaries, academicians, faculty members, paper presenters, participants, scholars, students, and also to everyone who is present here to be a part of this function. And of course, I will definitely take this given time space to me to acknowledge and shout out to the timeless efforts of the organizing committee members, my vibrant and exuberant faculty members, the ever hardworking scholars, my ever enthusiastic and supportive students, volunteers who have worked tirelessly behind the scenes to make this program a success or possible. Well, the event has been done in a hybrid mode to accommodate or give a kind of an inclusive flavor, aiming to provide a dynamic platform to bring together academicians, scholars, students, practitioners from across the globe to engage in insightful discussions and to share innovative research to encourage novelty exercises. Therefore, this Tuesday, we look forward to engaging discussions, thought-provoking presentations, fruitful networking that will enrich us all, professionally and personally. Therefore, seeking the blessing of Imam Kuntok Hanvi, I welcome you all. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for your welcome address. We now have the distinct honor of inviting our chief guest, Professor W. Chandbabu Singh, Vice Chancellor of Dhanavantri University, to address the gathering. Sir, please share your comments.
Good morning all. Dignitaries on the dais, Professor Nandini Sahu, Honorable Vice Chancellor, Hindi University, West Bengal, and guest of honor of this program, and also keynote speaker of this two-day conference on critical humanities, language, culture, and indigeneity. Professor Somdev Banik, Department of English, Tripura University, Tripura, Professor Pratibha Rani Kamatkar, who is going to join online, I believe, Director, Modern Languages, Jagannath University, Dhaka. Professor Tapu Biswas, Vasa Bhavna Institute of Languages, Literature and Culture, Vishwabharati Shantiniketan. Dr. Tikaram Patel, Associate Professor, Department of Language Education, Kathmandu University, Nepal, is going to join online. Professor Rohit Kumar Chandrakant Khanstar, Founder and Head, School of Artificial Intelligence, North Chiang Mai University, Thailand. And Professor Edson Chandramaitai, Principal, DM College of Arts, and the Dean School of Humanities, Dhanamandri University, and also the President of this particular inaugural program. And the learned colleagues sitting on the dais, invitees, faculty members, research scholars, and the students from different universities, State of Manipur, and dear young scholars. I'm really delighted to know that the DM College of Arts, Dhanamandri University, is organizing this two-day international conference on a very relevant topic, this critical humanities, language, culture, and indigeneity. This topic itself, the theme of the conference, is very relevant on today's time. You know, we have seen culture is nothing but a way of life, we always say. But in the whole of the world, when we are talking about the global workplace, in the global workplace, all of us should work with that particular mindset that we are going to work in a particular global platform where large numbers of people belonging to different communities and countries and regions of the world are going to come and work together. We're going to build a strong team, and our group composition will be quite diverse. When such kind of situations are there, the effectiveness of the people lies only when we know the culture of each other. When we talk about culture, it talks about language, it talks about the religious practices, it talks about what we call as food habit, and what are the ethical standards and the attitudes of the people. Okay, and there are all these perspectives which basically embrace all in a particular workplace. And that is why the workplace has become so dynamic these days. And in this dynamic workplace, how we will function effectively and efficiently, this is one aspect. How we will increase the productivity of the organization, the second issue. How we are going to occupy a global standard in the workplace. And all these challenges will be able to address only when we know the culture of different communities across the world. We know the culture of the people who are going to work together in a particular organization. And without that, it will be very difficult for us to survive in the global marketplace. Today, the concept of the global marketplace, we will never be able to resist. One of the best reasons is the technology is so advanced, the personal workplace is emerging. This is one aspect. The second aspect is the logistic infrastructure is so efficient across the world, and we can move anywhere in this world and join in any organization. We have that level of competence, knowledge, skills, and expertise. These are also something which we also cannot forget. Besides, because of technology, the learning of this culture, learning of the language, itself is not that challenging. Once we have the will, once we have the intention once we have the positive mindset, then we will be able to learn all sorts of languages. And that will definitely enhance our own capacity to interact people across the world, and at the same time moving from one place to another place, or from one country to another country. That's not that's a very difficult task for 2 years' time. That is why the global workforce is emerging. This is one. Second thing is that the world has become a single global village on one side. Even if we said that the world is a global village, if we do not have the cultural sensitivities and the understanding of the different cultures across the world, it will remain a challenge for all of us to work at different locations of the world. That's also one part. And that is why when we are supposed to discuss all about this particular thing, critical humanities, language, culture, and indigeneity, we need to focus very well what is there on this concept of culture, what is there in what is there in relation to languages, what is there in this indigeneity, and why these three things are so important for us on this particular time. And here we have expert from the technical science, this artificial intelligence department that is with us, and how this artificial intelligence is helping all of us in learning languages. And that itself is something which we cannot keep ourselves away from the artificial intelligence, and how this is going to help all of us in language learning and in sensitizing the cultural perspectives all across. And so we have so many learned experts sitting on the dais, and yes, of course, of the dais who wish to discuss thoroughly on various other technical sessions. And from these technical sessions, we will definitely come to know what is there on this particular theme, and how we will talk all about effective global workplace, and how culture will play a very important role out there. But besides culture, we also need to understand that this is all about, suppose, the law and order situation, then the attitude of people is living out there, okay, and suppose the concept of the cost of living, and how this can be connected with the culture. So cost of living is also well connected with culture. This is what I sometimes feel, because okay, the attitude of the people, the culture of the people living across the world, and just because of their lifestyle and the way of living, the cost involvement is also obviously out there, very well. And all these perspectives will be well integrated in this 2-day international conference, and these things will be discussed very well. This is what I believe, and this conference will definitely bring a lot of new perspectives to an educational institutions like Dhanam University. And besides that, we have not many upcoming students and scholars, and these scholars and upcoming students will definitely set their mind in which direction they should start thinking all about culture and lifestyle, food habit, and indigeneity, morality, character, culture, attitude. All these perspectives will be well integrated, and through that, how we will build ourselves a competent individual for working across the world on a very good and beautiful workplace. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to interact briefly with you, and I wish one Francis grand success. At the same time, we have not many visitors from other parts of the country, and otherwise we have one more friend from this one is Chiang Mai, and few other people are joining us online from Kathmandu, from Bangladesh, etc. And all of us will be well integrated, and I wish a happy stay of our guests in our university campus and in the state of Manipur. Thank you.
A very big thank you to our chief guest, Professor Dr. Chand Babu Singh, for addressing the audience and sharing your thoughts with us. We would also like to offer our sincere apologies to Sir and the audience for the slight change in the program and for not addressing it earlier. As we move on to the next segment of our program, it is my honor to introduce our keynote speaker for the day, Professor Nandini Sahu. Professor Sahu is someone who truly needs no introduction, but ma'am, allow me to say a few words. Professor Nandini Sahu is currently the Vice Chancellor of Hindi University, West Bengal, and is a major voice in contemporary Indian English literature. She has accomplished a doctorate in English literature under the guidance of late Professor Niranjan Mohanty, Professor of English, Vishwa Bharati Shantiniketan. She is an Amazon best-selling author, and her works have been widely published in India, USA, UK, Africa, and several other countries. Apart from numerous other literary awards, she is a triple gold medalist in English literature. She has received the gold medal from the Honorable Vice President of India for her contributions to English studies in India in the year 2019. She is also the recipient of the prestigious Michael Madhusudan Academy Award in 2024. She is the author and editor of 21 books: The Other Voice, The Recollectionist Redemption, The Postmodernist Delegation to English Language Teaching, The Post-Colonial Space, Writing for Self, and The Nation, Silver Poems of My Lips to Name a Few. She is also the former director of School of Foreign Languages. Her areas of research interest cover Indian literature, Hindi literature in translation, new literatures, indigenous knowledge systems, Hindu studies, American literature, folk literature, children's literature, and critical theory. She is the chief editor/founder editor of Interdisciplinary Journal of Literature and Language, a biannual peer-reviewed journal in English. Professor Sahu has also designed multiple academic programs in folklore and culture, American literature, post-colonial literature, British poetry, and Indian philosophical thoughts for IGNOU and many other universities. We are also delighted to inform you that Professor has recently released a book titled Medusa, which she will give an introduction to in her speech. And we are truly privileged to have you with us today. And please join me in welcoming Professor Nandini Sahu to deliver the keynote address. Before that, I would also like to request Professor Nandini Sahu to release her book, her recently launched book, Medusa. I would also like to request our chief guest, Professor W. Chandra Babu Singh, and all the other dignitaries to please come forward to publish the book, to release the book. Congratulations, ma'am, once again for the launch of the new book. Now we request you to please come forward and take your time.
Thank you very much for more than a very good morning to all of you. Dr. Chandra Babu Singh, the Vice Chancellor, Mr. Pratibha Rani, Mr. Vishwas, Ram Mohan, Dr. Rohit Kumar, Araskar, then Professor Subramanian, the head of the Department of English, Dr. Sundari, my host, and all the faculty members, the participants, research scholars, media, and the students, and everyone who is attending this very important conference. A very good morning to all of you. First of all, I extend my gratitude for having given me this opportunity, having invited me to share my experiences with you to deliver the keynote address. I am going to take 20 minutes with the permission of the Vice Chancellor. I was just asking him. I have a lengthy paper which I am going to hand over to Dr. Sundari. She can circulate it among the participants if they like. I am not going to read out. I will just talk about a few research questions. But before that, I would like to talk a little bit about my engagements with a subject like critical humanities, language, culture, and indigenous studies. People introduce me using many adjectives, many things like they already used, they were so kind. But I'm particularly happy when people call me a folk tourist. I have been working on folklore and culture studies forever. When I was doing my PhD under my supervisor, late Professor Niranjan Mohanty in Shantiniketan, Professor Tapurish knows him very well, they were good friends. Even in that period, I was doing some research on the folklore of Bengal, the folk singers I was working at that time. And going back to my childhood, I come from a tribal district, Kandhamat district in Odisha. Though I have lived in Delhi for 2 decades, since 2005 to 2024 December, I lived in Delhi as a professor of English and the director of foreign languages. And I have authored all my 23 books in English. But yes, I am a person of languages. For me, all languages are like river. In the beginning of this conference, there was a musical performance which was soul-searching music. I was overwhelmed. I just closed my eyes and I was listening to that kind of music. It was so beautiful. We were talking such melancholy and such soulful music. Languages are something like that. To me, languages are music to my ear. Probably that's how I ended up being a Vice Chancellor of Hindi University, West Bengal, which doesn't deal with only Hindi, it deals with all the Indian languages. I am the founder Vice Chancellor, and we have 5 subjects as of now. We have Hindi, we have translation studies, comparative world literatures, and we have history and political science. And I am planning to introduce many more subjects. This is my 6th month. I am just 6 months old in West Bengal as the Vice Chancellor. So within 6 months' time, we have invited more than 45 speakers all over the world to deliver the lectures on comparative world literatures. You can just Google go to internet and find out the website of Hindi University. You will find Hindi University lecture series on comparative world literatures, where the best brains of the country, professors from Jamia Millia Islamia, JNU, Delhi University, and many foreign universities like Germany, France, and some universities in the US and UK, and people from West Bengal, people from Northeast India. We had 4 lecturers from Northeast India by some professors from Nehru and some other parts of the 7 states in the Northeast India. So the 44 lectures are available in the YouTube series of Hindi University, where the professors, the eminent speakers have been talking about comparative world literatures vis-a-vis Indian languages and literatures. And also, I have deep engagement with indigenous culture. Probably I was the first one in the country to design and develop the first MA program in folklore and culture studies with 20,000 pages of print material. You can go to our website www.igno.ac.in. Well, I am so IGNO. I am here for 4 years in West Bengal as the Vice Chancellor. Eventually, I have to go back to my university, IGNO, where I have been designing and developing study material and taking lectures on folklore and culture studies, Hindu studies, Indian knowledge systems, indigenous cultures, and deeply immersed as a student, as a scholar, as a researcher of indigenous literature. I would never say that I am an expert of indigenous literature. No one can be. Even a country that we have so many languages, cultures. You know, in the world initially there were 6 lakh languages, and today there are only 6,000 languages. So what happened to rest of the languages then? They died a natural death in the absence of anyone actually documenting them and archiving them. So as a folklorist, I have taken it as my moral responsibility to archive and document the dying cultures, dying folklores and languages of the country. So that is how I have been deeply engaged in archiving, documenting not just Indian languages and cultures. I travel all over the world. I go to dying languages groups. I take interviews with the last speakers of endangered languages. I get them translated to English through the help of the experts, sometimes in my own language. And then I put it as a part of the project that I am doing with the Ministry of Culture on the endangered and dying languages of the world. And some of that I have already introduced in the MA in folk literature that we have from IGNO, and MA in folk literature that I am already planning in Hindi University where I joined in January. And yes, I have also a very soft corner in my heart for literature from the Northeast. Yesterday I was telling Dr. Sundari and also Dr. Vishwas that out of the 10 courses under MA in Folklore and Culture Studies, at least 2 courses completely cover the folk literature and the indigenous cultural studies vis-a-vis Northeast India. The 7 states of Northeast India, all the languages here, my scholars are there. Many of my research scholars are from Northeast India, and they help me for the translation of the rich languages of Northeast India to English, and then to introduce them as a part of the MA programs that we offer. And myself will be happy to know that in the MA in Folklore and Culture Studies and MA in Tribal Studies that we are planning to take in Hindi University, 1 or 2 courses will completely go into the literature from Manipur. And also in Hindi University we are planning MA programs in the 23 Indian languages, the official languages of India, out of which one will be MA in Manipuri, and then MA is Assamese, and all the northeastern languages will have one specific MA course. Like we will have MA in Tamil, MA in Telugu, MA in Malayalam, MA in Hindi, Bangla, Odia, MA English. We will have MA Comparative Literature. So that is how we are planning, and the framework has already been discussed with the concerned authorities, and probably in near future we will be in a position to introduce the MA programs in very many languages of India. And also we have taken the pedagogical approaches to design programs on the 7,000 folk languages of India. There are so many folk languages. We are planning to do that. And the title of the conference today, Critical Humanities, you can divide this title. I don't know who conceived this title. It's very beautiful, and it's it is multi-layered. So many meanings can go here. Critical Humanities can be a separate conference altogether. Language can be one conference. Culture can be another seminar. Indigenous studies can be another seminar. So 4 major themes, 4 major pedagogical approaches to literature departments have been taken together for this 2 days international conference. This is a very important subject. I hardly found any university, I have delivered hundreds of lectures, but I hardly found any university taking so many subjects which are interlinked, interconnected, but at the same time they are independent subjects. So this is where I always say that social sciences and humanities departments can be truly interdisciplinary and multidisciplinary, and you can take so many things under one umbrella term, which is multidisciplinary research. So I hope these 2 days are going to be very multidisciplinary for the speakers, eminent speakers sitting on the desk. Maybe after me they are going to speak, and the Vice Chancellor already he introduced the idea of the conference seamlessly, very beautifully he introduced, and I'm sure that the participants for the coming 2 days are going to cover many things under critical humanities. Now, in a very simplistic manner, if a BA or a BSc or BCom student asks me, what is critical about critical humanities? That is a very loaded question. What is so critical about critical humanities? Well, there was a time when we were students, in the English department, we used to be only interdisciplinary. Interdisciplinary working within one discipline. Like English literature was about Shakespeare, Shelley, Keats, Byron and all of that, and interpreting the poetry of T.S. Eliot or Williams. So English departments used to stop the conversation after T.S. Eliot. I think my English professors will agree that after T.S. Eliot there was no discussion and we wasted this. That was interdisciplinary research. The English teachers sitting here, they have a smile on their faces. With the introduction of cultural studies and cultural studies in English departments, we became interdisciplinary. In the 80s or maybe mid-90s as well, mid-80s towards the end of 1980s. So cultural studies and cultural studies came up in a big way in the English departments. And we talked about so many things related to comparative studies like African literature. We used to call that black literature. When we were our master's degree students, we used to call it black literature, though the things, the terms have changed now. And then Australian literature came, Canadian studies came, linguistics and literature departments started exchanging hands. So that is how humanities departments started becoming more complex, more critical, more culture oriented. One question I usually ask in the selection committees to candidates, what's the difference between culture studies and cultural studies? They are definitely different. One belongs to macro world, one belongs to micro world, and how to distinguish between the two. Well, and then in the year 2000 and afterwards, subjects started becoming interdisciplinary. Now, what is interdisciplinary? Within one discipline. Interdisciplinary between two disciplines. Taking ideas from two disciplines is interdisciplinary. And transdisciplinary studies is when you take ideas from different disciplines and apply those to the researches. And multidisciplinary is when you construct, when you build up a completely new discipline of your own by taking folklore, culture, Indian knowledge systems, Hindu studies and British literature, American literature, Australian studies. So all the existing subjects are there, we are not getting rid of them and we are introducing new subjects like in the English departments. Now we are introducing folklore, we are introducing Hindu studies. And then we are introducing IKS, Indian Knowledge Systems. Professor Gambhir would have agreed with me that last year in 2024, sir, we were together in Banaras to design and develop all India level syllabus of Indian Knowledge Systems. So my proposition was we should not get rid of British or American or Canadian or whatever literatures we have been teaching, we should not get rid of them. We did not remove them from our syllabus. Rather, NEP is a bigger refrigerator. If you have a small refrigerator at home, you can store less amount of food. But NEP is a bigger refrigerator provided to a household where you can store more amount of fruits and food or whatever. And NEP gives you that kind of an opportunity. New subjects can be introduced in English departments, in literature departments, but it's very, very difficult, like all of you will agree with me. Experts from ICT are also sitting on the desk. Digital humanities is coming up in a big way. So, in English departments now we are having diplomas in digital humanities. What is the use of a subject like digital humanities in an English department is again a question. So, with these kind of questions, probably critical humanities gets a direction in our departments, in our syllabus design and pedagogy. Yesterday I was telling Professor Dr. Vishwas that when I left IGNOU for 4 years in December and I came to Indian University in January, my parting gift for IGNOU was a course on Hindu studies, epics, Puranas and Siddhantas. That is one course I designed for the students of engineering and technology. So students of engineering technology, science, commerce, literatures, all of them have taken, they have adopted that particular course where we are talking about pedagogical texts from Hindu studies from a very scientific and technical point of view. Using science, technology, talking about texts like Surya Siddhanta, Pancha Siddhantika Siddhant Shiromani, and taking texts from the Ramayana and Mahabharata and looking at the Kurukshetra, the geometrical pattern patterns of the Kurukshetra from geometrical point of view, from mathematics, then Vedic Ganit, then Vedic medicines, applying the ideas of Vedic medicines to contemporary medicinal system. So, in our Hindu studies and Indian knowledge systems, the ideas and the concepts are very modern, very contemporary, full of science and technology. This is what we have tried to do in the course. And in the MA in Folklore and Cultural Studies, we use critical humanities very, very critically. We have students from medical sciences. My oldest student is 90 years. He is from a government hospital in Delhi, and he joined the Folklore MA program, where he did a project on indigenous medicines, Ayurveda, Unani, and then comparing Ayurveda and Unani with the contemporary peer-reviewed medicinal system of allopathy. So, you go to anything, contemporary literature, in the making of modern literature, you will find so much of classical and folk and mythical studies influencing the contemporary literary studies. You go to history, ethnomusicology influences history, like the winner writes history, and the history of the so-called loser becomes ethnomusicology through the folklorists. So any kind of research, contemporary studies we have, they have a background in our folklore, culture, classical and all those literatures. So this seminar that you are holding today, you have to take all these important points related to critical humanities, language, culture and indigenous studies. Most of this I have discussed in my new book, Hindu Studies and Foundations and Frameworks. I am going to offer this copy to your library. Later on you can read it from the 3 copies of Medusa which I have given you. So in this particular book, when I saw your title, Critical Humanities, Language, Culture and Indigenous Studies, one of my chapters or couple of my chapters deal with the subject completely, in detail. One chapter is on language studies, one is on culture and cultural studies, one is on indigenous studies vis-a-vis Hindu literary pedagogy. So everything I have already discussed, the seminar that you are having, so it resonated with my thoughts. I was so happy to look at this seminar, and I had a very, very engaging, very busy schedule. I think 100 times before accepting any invitation, but when I got this invitation from Dr. Sundari, then I thought maybe I can go and I can discuss, I can participate and listen to the important research that people have been doing. So I am looking forward to listening to many of you, taking your researches into consideration. Now I am writing the second book of Hindu Studies, Texts and Contexts. Under that I have taken Madhav Kandale's folk Ramayana from Northeast India. I have taken many Ramayans. My poetry book Sita, which is a complete poetry collection on Sita with 25 cantos. I have read 300 Ramayans, out of which 298 Ramayans are folk Ramayans, out of which many are the Ramayans from the Northeast India. So the second volume of Hindu Studies has texts and contexts. So that is where probably your research will be helpful for me. Before I deliver this, accepted this seminar, my research questions, I will just put the research questions and stop here so that you can come back to me with your questions and discussions. My first research question for today is, how do indigenous communities use language and storytelling and poetry to resist cultural erasure? I talk about language death. How does poetry help in that? Then in what ways do the indigenous folk narratives use alternative ecological, gendered and ethical worldviews? So what is so alternative about it? Today we are talking about so many new literatures. We talk about green cultural studies, ocean humanities, blue studies, river studies. We bring everything to literature, and of course we are using artificial intelligence to record our worldview. Without technology, without internet, it will be impossible for us to record everything. That is where AI experts are helpful for us. And then my next question was, how can critical humanities decolonize its disciplinary assumption, boundaries through engagement with indigenous knowledge systems? I find the term knowledge system very beautiful. Knowledge is something. So there was a time when my father used to tell me knowledge is power. When I grew up, he told me utilization of knowledge is power. And today I tell my son, you have so much of knowledge at doorstep, just at the key of your internet, you have all the knowledge with you. So my proposition to my son today is utilization of knowledge is power. How do you utilize the knowledge systems? And then next, how do you systematize knowledge? Knowledge has become a system now. In English departments, it's difficult to introduce Hindu studies or Indian knowledge systems. Yes, it is very difficult because we are not systematically presenting Ramayana, Mahabharata or those kind of texts. In the MA classroom, you cannot be a storyteller. If you tell a story of Mahabharata to MA students, it's not going to help. So now you have to systematize the knowledge. You have to create a systemic approach to Hindu studies, indigenous studies, folk literature or anything for that matter by using a proper research methodology. What is the research methodology to teach folklore? What is the research methodology to teach Hindu studies? I have dealt with those things in the book as well, and the new course which is coming up, the research methodologies of teaching Hindu studies in English classrooms is one chapter. The research methodology and the pedagogical approaches of teaching folklore in Indian classrooms. So these are the big questions and important questions. How to design a syllabus, how to put these things under research methodology, under MLA style sheet or whatever style sheets we are using, because in the classrooms you cannot be a storyteller. Think about it. Today when I stop here, my question for each one of you, all the teachers sitting here and all the students sitting out there and the media people sitting out there is, can we be storytellers in a classroom? Even if we have rich stories in India, we cannot be. In that case, how do we teach these kind of subjects like indigenous studies, culture, language, folklore, Hindu studies, IKS, Indian knowledge systems, how do we teach these subjects? So design and develop a methodological approach, a research methodology for the classroom, bring it to the university table. So that is my proposition today. I will stop here. If you have any questions or anything to discuss with me, please feel free. I am doing multiple courses and books on Indian knowledge systems, folklore and Hindu studies. I have 2 journals and a publishing house. Also, I led one university. If you want to collaborate with me as a researcher, as a folklorist, please feel free to get in touch with me through my email. Thank you so much. Namaskar.
Our heartfelt thanks to Professor Nandini Sahu for your compelling keynote address and sharing snippets of your lived experiences with us. We truly appreciate your dedication, vision and leadership. You are an inspiration to all of us, ma'am. Now, we are honored to invite Professor Somdev Pane from the Department of English, Tripura University, to grace us with an address and share his valuable insights. So,
Respected Honorable Vice Chancellor, Sir, Professor W. Chandbabu Singh, Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Nandini Sahu, Madam, respected Professor, Dignitary Professor Tapu Biswas, Dr. Rohit Kumar Kalaskar, and President of this inaugural session, Professor Nanchenbam Meeti. First of all, I would like to congratulate I would like to thank the organizing committee of this international conference on critical humanities for inviting me as a speaker. I would also like to congratulate you all for the topic of the conference, which is critical humanities. I would like to take from where Professor Nandini Sahu had ended. When I look at this topic closely, I can't help myself reflect on it from two perspectives. Critical humanities, this is an area of studies, as you know, where literature, language, indigeneity, all these things are looked at through Western critical theoretical paradigms, right? But simultaneously, there is another way of looking at the topic that is more symptomatic in approach. Critical humanities may as well be representative of the condition of humanities studies in the contemporary world. Just like we refer to the condition of a patient in ICU as critical, similarly the field of humanities may be said to be currently passing through a critical phase. And we as votaries of this discipline must understand the crisis and accordingly reshape our goals and agenda to remain relevant, productive, and in alignment with the larger goals of our decolonization project. I have problems with critical humanities as a paradigm of looking at things or using critical theories. Now what are my problems is, I feel these critical theories, they are tied to specific theories that all of them have evolved out of Western experiences. These theories are all perspective based, right? Any topic, you can do research from post-colonial perspective, from subaltern perspective, from feminist perspective, from a queer studies perspective. So these are all perspectival researches. And interestingly, they use certain differentiating systems like the self, the other, right? The dominant, the marginal, the oppressor, the oppressed, nature from culture. And they also in the end promote Western values. I also think that all these Western critical theories are basically rationalistic. Rationalistic, putting too much of emphasis on rationality, and also at the same time quite hegemonistic. Either their way or out of the way. Now, these theories also promotes a kind of a universalism in the name of diversity, multiplicity. Eventually, we all get digested into this dominant system. Next, this I find it's kind of taxonomic in spirit. Taxonomic, when I do this kind of, we do this kind of research, it's like taxonomic means, segregating, separating the different things that we research. And eventually, the kind of unity that they seek, it is a syncretic unity, not an integral unity. Bharatiya system of looking at anything or life, society, is essentially integrated system, not integral system. Then it lays too much of emphasis on this politics of identity. This identity, which is often, this politics is disguised as intellectualism, and in the end, it aims to subvert whatever is traditional, whatever is, based to our heritage, conventions. And finally, there may be many more, but I feel this critical humanities, the objective, the goal is to promote right-based society. Substituting, I'm not saying good, bad, but it promotes right-based society instead of duty-based civilizational values. You may agree, you may disagree. But anyway, let me now try to explain and contextualize what I am trying to say through certain instances. The African Republic of Kenya won independence from British colonialism in the year 1963. On 20th September 1968, one of the greatest African writers, many of you have heard his name, Ngugi wa Thiong'o, wrote a comment to the 42nd meeting of the Arts Faculty Board of University of Nairobi, objecting the proposal of the acting head of the English department to establish a new department of linguistics and languages that can act as the arbitrator and facilitator of other African languages, literature, and culture. So this new Department of Linguistics and Language will act as the core department around which all these other African literature, language and culture departments will work as satellite departments. In his argument, Ngugi asks, why can't African literature, consciousness and cultural heritage be at the center so that we can view the other cultures in relation to our culture? And then he ends his argument by suggesting that the English department should be abolished, that a department of African literature and languages be established in its place. Why? To him, the primary aim of any literature department is to illuminate the spirit animating the people, to show how it meets new challenges and to investigate possible areas of development and engagement. He particularly emphasizes the incorporation of oral traditions in the curriculum. What Professor Shahu Madam has said, and this is in 1968, incorporation of oral traditions in the curriculum as it is our primary route, and it leads to a multidisciplinary outlook. In India, in 1992, Professor Makarand Paranjape, who was the professor in JNU and then the director of Indian Institute of Advanced Studies, in his lecture on decolonizing English studies, argues that if the mandate of humanities departments is to achieve decolonization of the psyche, then our collective goal should be recovering our own indigenous and native traditional knowledge systems and strengthening them. Then he goes on to outline 5 levels at which this project of decolonization should take place. First he says code, C-O-D, code. By code, he refers to the ideology, the mindset, or the drivers of the system, or even the system itself. So at the first level, we should take up the challenge of changing the ideology or the mindset. shifting from the Western perspectives of looking at anything to indigenous, native perspectives. Secondly, says, but that won't be enough. We need to have institutions and institutional frameworks. For example, universities, departments, libraries, journals, bodies, and policies which encourage this kind of research. It's only till very recently, all this, what you call Indian studies, Hindu studies, like these things wouldn't have got any scope for publication in many journals. The third thing that he says is that content. We need to change syllabus, new texts, and reviving indigenous perspectives and approaches. The fourth thing he talks about medium, because one can't achieve decolonization using colonial literature, language, and theory, because culture, as we know, is deeply embedded in all three of them. And the fifth thing he says is agency. Who will do it? The state, the elites, the civil society, the masses. Who will take the initiative? University and college teachers probably should come forward. Now, one may ask, why? Why should we try? Aren't we happy in our ivory towers of intellectual insulation? Aren't we happy the way we are? We have got a job, very soon we will also get a job, we have family, we are happy. Why should we try for this change? Now, this reminds me, I will take you here to a very famous novel by Amitav Ghosh, The Shadow Lines, where there is a character called Ila. This reminds me of Ila's dismissive, naive question to the narrator, where she asks, why? Why should we try? Why not just take the world as it is? And there the narrator says, I told her how he, that is Pradeep, had once said that we had to try because the alternative wasn't blankness. It only meant that if we didn't try ourselves, we would never be free of other people's inventions. If we don't try, we will continue to, survive in other people's inventions. Now let me come further closer. On 19th June 2025, on the occasion of a book launch, Home Minister Amit Shah has said that in this country, those who speak English will soon feel ashamed. The creation of such a society is not far away. Without our languages, we cease to be truly Indian. Our culture, our history, and our religion cannot be understood in foreign languages. With self-respect, we will run our country in our own languages and lead the world too. I will leave here for you to reflect on these instances. I am not commenting anything. I am just leaving here for you to reflect on these three instances. Finally, I will end my words with a very beautiful and relevant Nigerian proverb. And Chinua Achebe often quotes it, which says that until the lions have their own historians. The history of the hunt will always glorify the hunter. I will repeat it once more, that until the lions have their own historians, the history of the hunt will always glorify the hunter. Notwithstanding our independence in 1947, the tiger called Bharat has been unleashed from centuries-old chains of mental enslavement. Now it needs a historian in you and in me to rewrite its story. The question is, are we ready? Shall we rise to the occasion? Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for sharing your insightful thoughts, which have deepened our perspectives not only in academia but in life itself. Your valuable words have encouraged us to engage more critically with the discourse and enrich our learning journey. It is now our privilege to invite Professor Tapu Biswas of the Bhasa Bhavana Institute of Language, Literature and Culture, Vishwa Bharati Shanti Niketan, to deliver his speech. Sir?
Hello. Namaskar. Very, very good morning. Respected dignitaries on the dais, professors, academicians, research scholars, my friends, and my students. At the outset, I convey my gratitude to give me opportunity to deliver my thought in this 2 days international conference. Today, I want to talk on Indian knowledge system and the teaching of English literature in India. In a nation like ours, we had to move and to suffer through a long trauma of colonization. The idea of education came to be suddenly transformed with coming out of colonial rule. Traditional ways of thought and indigenous system of knowledge, which had gradually developed over time, were abruptly marginalized as the British government imposed system of education and standards of thoughts based on Western pre- and post-enlightenment notion of scientificism and logic. The object was to erase from the consciousness of the Indian people all traces of the indigenous intellectual inheritance and the racist words of the British writer, architects, Macaulay, to create a quote from Macaulay, that a class of persons, Indian in blood and color, but English in taste, in the opinions, in morals, and in intellect. The British system of education, which was introduced in colonial India, affected and most cases resulted in young Indians being indoctrinated by their colonial masters into learning to think like the British masters. Traditional system of thought and inter-nativist method of education that was becoming once again about to absolute. The older knowledge system was dismissed as being outdated, irrelevant, and also unnecessary. And the teaching of multidisciplinary subjects like science, social science, technology, even medicine, and teaching and learning was confined to European models of thought. Colonial education uprooted and supplanted pre-existing model of teaching and learning. A new scheme of education system in which children were taught in soulless boxes called quote-unquote classrooms instead of out in the open air in the lap of Mother Nature was introduced in the name of reform and progress. Here I am happy to note that Gurudev Rabindranath 100 years back introduced this system of learning that a child will learn under the sky in the laps of nature in the Patubhavan of Vishwabharati Shantiniketan. Colleges and universities are established in which learning outcomes were quantified in terms of examination passed and marks obtained. The older practice of learning from a guru was rendered obsolete. Printed text came to replace the palm leaf manuscript of yours, and course books are written by Western authors were prescribed for study in every institution of learning at all levels across our country. The respect formerly given to the scholars, teachers and pundits are replaced with the adoration being reserved for those with foreign degrees and foreign knowledge. In education in particular, the manifestation of what has been called quote-unquote colonial claims became very visible. It was almost as if Indians were compelled to lose confidence in themselves and to collectively suffer from the deep sense of inferiority. In no era of academic activity did the impact of colonial education affect Indians more than in learning and teaching of English literature. The subject of English literature itself was introduced in India much before it began to be offered in the vast majority of British universities. In fact, there was a political intention behind the teaching of English literature in our nation. As Gauri Viswanathan has indicated in her book The Marks of Conquest, English literature was introduced by the British as a kind of tool, as a means to impress upon Indians the idea that British literature was the best in the world and the thought and culture of colonizers was of the highest in kind. This use of English literature and cultural capital was eminently successful as an strategy. Through English literature, we were introduced to the English language and to the intellectual riches of the West. Teachers of English of both language and literature were forced to become agents in the propagations of the myth of superiority of the Western thought. At the college and university level in particular, teachers of English literature followed the footsteps of pioneering British teachers like D.L. Richardson and others who had settled down in India. Later generation of English teachers learned from American pedagogics. Close reading of the text as per the norms of practical criticism became commonplace, and the Indian critics even today faithfully follow the ideas of Plato, Aristotle, Freud, Marx, Derrida and Foucault. After independence, the rise of the so-called new English literatures and the worldwide acceptance of Indian writing in English has introduced the formation of a new canon. Over the last 40 years, the amount of space given to the core British literature in university syllabus has lessened, and Indian writings in English has been given a very important and priority. However, even though the content of English literature studies in India has significantly evolved, the epistemological basis of our discipline have been largely remained the same. We continue to depend on Western theory and Western theorizations, Western pedagogies of practice, and Western ways of looking at any literary text for the classroom and for the discussion. This was perhaps inevitable given to the centuries-long episode to European friends of thought that we Indians have to observe, nevertheless, that all more reason for us today to explore how Indian knowledge system, in short IKS, can be used to study and teach English literature. I remember in this context the advice given by my teacher, Professor Shubidhar. Some of you perhaps know here. He wrote an essay called Teaching English Literature Calcutta Classroom Perspective, which was originally published 30 years back. Professor Dhar argued that Indian teachers of English literature needed, I quote, to read English literature as Indians foremost, unquote. This suggestion directs attention to the necessity of integrating our traditional episteme with and within our present day regarding the texts we teach in our classroom. There are two major advantages in making this shift. The first place, such a strategy would help us free ourselves from the strange world of Western ideological frameworks. In his seminal text, The Intimate Enemy, Ashish Nandi has drawn attention to often forgotten fact that there was one but two colonialisms, that is, one of the body and other of the mind. Thanks to our collective effort, even 77 years back, as the people united by the spirit of Swadeshi, an idea of Swaraj, we were able to free ourselves from physical, political, economical colonialism. But freedom of the mind is more difficult condition to attain, especially since we have been held in thrall of Western ways of thought for such a long period of time. To attain this objective, what we need is to process of active consciousness of decolonization that my earlier speakers have already pointed out. Decolonization. One of the most prominent theories of decolonization, Nigogi in his book on these topics argued that a turn back to non-English indigenous languages was a way of reconnecting the people of a nation to their lost heritage. This may not be possible in a country like India, which is home of a host of languages, vast number of cultures. Indeed, a whole scale of English language may not be advisable, not only because many millions of Indians use this language to communicate with each other, but also because a convincing case can be made out to stand that English is also an Indian language today. Yet, decolonization through the use of IKS, especially in the context of English studies, has its own advantages. Here, the activity of reading and scrutinizing work of the literature written in English may be situated as an disadvantaged position ethically. For too long, we, that is the research scholars, teachers in English department in India, have tried to produce a scholarship that is the best imitative of the output of the Western scholars. The results so far have been partially successful, as most Indian scholars residing in India have seldom attained worldwide recognition as a notable critics or notable theorist. The reason, of course, is not that our academics lack in knowledge or perception or acuity of insight or ability. In many cases, I think it can simply mean that our scholars are using intellectual systems that are borrowed, that are second-hand, or partly unoriginal. Chances that the avant-garde Anglo-American literary critics has accessed far larger quantities of current information and knowledge in the field than the college or university teacher who is hampered by the remote location and completely inadequate facility of the library and uncertain internet connection. One possible solution to such problems may be forthcoming by a scholarly turn towards IKS. Such an episteme being largely unavailable to the Western scholar, this lack may become an enabling force for us. To put it simply, instead of mimicking extant Western scholarship, we may well discover now ways of investigating literary texts that are innovative and strikingly different. Professor Nandini Madam has already pointed out about the importance of folklore and the book that she has written on Hinduism at the part of the Indian knowledge system. These are very good addition to this. To say this is not to ignore the difficulties that lie in this path. A great many of us, having been trained in Western aesthetics, European theories, and Occidental tradition of thought, are comparatively less knowledgeable our own indigenous traditions and intellectual of inquiry. Yet the easy availability of translations of classical Indian texts today have opened up avenues for informed exploration of contemporary scholars. What had been difficult a few decades back is now more easily accessible. And the result will be rewarding in that we begin to appreciate English text from the world or from the perspectives that is truly our own, that is our Indian. We will therefore open up both new contextual space and theoretical frames which will become powerful alternatives to the new perspective of Western ethical discourses that at present occupy a position of power within the academic circle. Such a move can also bring about a radical change with the epitome of borders of English studies in India by allowing students to draw comfortably upon their own traditions and cultural inheritance. The introduction of IKS into the practice of teaching and learning of literature, particularly English literature, particularly Indian writings in English or in English translation, will therefore not be a simple nationalistic or patriotic gesture, but a move in the direction of decolonization of critical intellect of Indian scholars, researchers, and students. For this proposition to be meaningful beyond the contents of our general theorization, there of course needs to be suggested a few practical templates of application. Hence, here are a few indications. Mention will be made first of the theory of Russia theory, which conforms in a way to the notion of reader's response criticism. C.D. Narasimha's edited collection, entitled East-West Poetics at War, is an already available scholarly resources in this regard. Second, there are possibilities of incorporating Anandabhadra's concept of dhwani in the study of Western forms of literature. Third, the concept of karpo, alankara, may also lead to a new and innovative readings. It may be worth remembering too that the dialogic method embodied in the Shastra tradition may be profitably applied in critical appraisal of any English text. Further, in the general sense too, there are immense possibilities resistant in the examination and dictation of strong influence of Eastern thought on the writing of American and British authors like Emerson, Walt Whitman, T.S. Eliot, even the American British poets. They were very much influenced by the Indian philosophy. A range of writing by a number of prominent English romantic poets like William Blake, who features the Vedic figures of the Brahma and Indra in person, William Astor, whose poems like Tintin Abbey and Prelude are very close reading of Upanishadic spirit, and Corliss, who had a more than passing acquaintance with the Samkhya of Upanishad, which has been translated into French in the mid-18th century, and Bhagavad Gita, which was translated into English by Charles Hawkins in 1784, may be studied from IK's perspective. Such steps may help Indian intellectuals, scholars, academicians, students in the humanities in particular to cease to the desire to become clones of Western thinkers and lay claim to do and celebrate the brilliant mental resources of our own great nation, India. Thank you.
A very big thank you to Professor Kalpurus Ross for your speech. Your speech has given us very compelling perspectives on a very timely and thought-provoking topic. I would now like to invite Dr. Rohit Kumar Chandrakant Kalaskar, founder and head School of Artificial Intelligence, North Chiang Mai University, Thailand, to give a speech. Sir, please take your time.
A very good morning. At the outset, I thank the dignitaries on the dais and the organizers of this conference to invite me to speak on AI, implementation of AI, help for AI to resolve the complexities in critical humanities. Today with the topic critical humanities, language, culture and indigeneity, it might be a little bit weird to understand that how an AI can help or how AI can be embedded with the learning of this topic. I would like to say that we all know that since we wake up, we eat until we sleep, AI is everywhere. We use our phones with AI. Nowadays, even the kitchen is been equipped with AI, with menu planning, with cooking, with recipes being designed. So similarly, AI is also being used in critical humanities, might be with AI helps you to resolve the complexities which a human being faces or a research scholar faces to resolve it manually. You might be thinking that how it is. Basically, let me begin with a basic thing, that AI or artificial intelligence, what we call, is nothing but a machine learning, as we all know. It is being embedded by large data sets. A large data sets of the concerned topics. Now, to resolve these data sets, which is not possible by the human brains, will be done by the artificial intelligence. Yesterday, I was in one pre-submission thesis where I came across with the problems of the scholars facing to have some resolving their research thesis related to translation, related to the language subjects. Post submission, we had a small seminar wherein we showed them that how AI helps them to overcome their problems or their unresolved tasks. So similarly, AI cannot be said as replacing any jobs or any thoughts or any human beings, but it is a tool which helps human being to resolve, to get educated, to have some advancement and creativity in the critical thinking. That is what is AI. So, how AI is helping critical humanities? Let me just point out three of the points. By embracing AI in critical humanities, it advances our understanding on human culture or the languages and experience, develop new methodologies and approaches, also cultivate critical thinking and creativity. I think so many people might have heard about generative AI. Anybody has an idea what is generative AI? Generative artificial intelligence. Any idea? Okay. Generative artificial intelligence is nothing but creating a content, creating an image. You click your photo. Okay? You click your photo. You upload in an app and it gives you a beautiful design. Isn't it? So that is what is a generative AI. When you visit a historical place, you just open up your Google Lens, click on the artifact or from the historical place, it gives you the entire description of that particular historical event. That is the generative AI. That is how AI helps the scholars, the students, the professors to understand the subject and to resolve. During these speeches, before me, the seniors said that there are various complexities in research work. There are some problems in research work. I would be happy to say that we are there as an AI technical expert to help you out to resolve that complexities, that technical experts. Any research work which takes almost 3 years, 4 years, with the help of AI, can be reduced to the magnificent time. So that is how AI. Please don't keep a myth that AI is replacing. Please embrace AI. AI is your friend. AI is your partner, is your companion. Without human being, an AI cannot survive. Without AI, in today's era, a human being cannot survive. Because we need phone every time, wherever, to communicate, to understand the climate, weather, or to a language to translate, we need AI. So that is how AI is helping today with regard to the humanities, with regard to the commerce, with regard to the arts. From this stage, I propose the dignitaries and the officials present that to embed, to add a part of a subject related to their studies with the technology, the artificial intelligence, which will help students, which will help the researchers, scholars to understand more efficiently and to discover, to explore the new aspects in the coming era. Coming to an end of my speech, finally, I propose to the Dhanamanjuri University Vice Chancellor, Professor Chan Babu, that as a representative of North Chiang Mai University heading this Department of AI, School of Artificial Intelligence, we will be happy to offer, to hold or to train your students of 4 days a training program in the related subjects. Might be arts, might be humanities, might be commerce, might be science. To train them in their respective interest fields at free of cost, so that we can create Manipur as an AI hub of our country. That is what is my vision I have come with. I have been guided, rather informed by the Council General, Mr. Pranab Banerjee, His Excellency, to promote Chiang Mai in Northeast, especially when he was happy that I said that I am representing Chiang Mai and the Council General and the University in this particular seminar. So he just informed me to see that the student exchange is being conducted, the faculty's exchange is being conducted with their respective interests, and also we embrace this particular technology. So with this, I thank you all for giving me an opportunity and to listening to me patiently. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Before I thank Dr. Rohit Kumar for his speech, I'm also pleased to share that Dr. Rohit Kumar would like to present a souvenir to our chief guest, Professor W. Chan Babu Singh. So I request Professor Chan Babu Singh to receive the souvenir from Dr. Rohit Kumar. Our heartfelt appreciation to Dr. Rohit Kumar for this thoughtful gesture and also for his generous offer for a training program. Now I'd like to invite the president of today's program, Professor S. Lanjendra Mehta, Principal, DM College of Arts and Dean, School of Humanities, Dhanamanjuri University, to kindly deliver the presidential address.
Namaskar. I want to welcome today's dignitaries, respected Chief Guest Professor W. Chan Babu Singh, Honorable Vice Chancellor, Dhanamanjuri University, Manipur, India. Among the guest speakers, Professor Nandini Sahu, Honorable Vice Chancellor of Hindi University, West Bengal, Professor Shom Devavani, Department of English, Tripura University, Tripura, India, Professor Pratibha Rani Karamkar, former Director, Modern Languages, Jagannath University, Dhaka, Bangladesh, Professor Tapu Biswas Basa Bhavana, Institute of Languages, Literature and Culture, Vishwabharati Shantiniketan, West Bengal, India. Dr. Tikaram Paudel, Associate Professor, Department of Language Education, Kathmandu University, Nepal, and Kumar Chandrakant Kalaskar, founder and head School of Artificial Intelligence, North Chiang Mai University, Thailand, and respected deans, directors, former principals, and existing principals, professors, associate professors, assistant professors of DMU, respected delegates, reporters of print and electronic media, and other persons who present here for your kind presence at this inaugural function of a two-day international conference on critical humanities, language, culture, and indigeneity, organized by the Department of English, the College of Arts, DMU Manipur, in collaboration with IQAC, the College of Arts Imphal, and the Manipur University Alumni Association Manipur. As you noted, the critical humanities is a field of study that examines human existence, experiences, and interpretation, often focusing on power dynamics and social justice. Now, we have 370 million indigenous people in the world. Manipur is also one of them. Now, we have lost our culture, our tradition, our religion, and our language. We have forgotten our early language and dominated by the Sanskrit, Bangla, and English language. We have changed even the lovely indigenous name of our land, Manipur. Hence, our Manipur is also in a critical stage and arise a big question mark on our indigeneity and identity. The word indigeneity was created in 1998 by Jose Martin Cobo, special reporter for the UN Subcommission. It refers to the unique connection of indigenous people to specific lands and culture. The word indigenism or indigeneity is associated with decolonization. Language and culture are interconnected because language can be used as a tool of cultural transmission and expansion of a community. The study of language and culture within the framework of cultural humanities can be used to deconstruct against the power dynamic and to challenge dominant ideologies. Then it can promote the social justice of indigenous communities, but we are coming our journey very far away from our tradition with another trait. We have forgotten our folklore, folk-minded, indigenous concept, indigenous world. And I feel after listening the lecture of Nandini Shahu that we are all Indians and we should know about the English with Hindi also. Hindi is our national language. As a Indian, if we cannot speak Hindi and we cannot have the knowledge of Hindi, how we can say, I am Muslim Indian? I am very happy, and I sincerely thank to the English Department of the College of Arts, DLU, and all the members of the organizing committee of this conference for their right way to protect our identity and existence of indigenous people of the world. Thank you.
Sir, your words have beautifully encapsulated the spirit of this gathering and leave us with much to contemplate in regards to our culture, language, and indigeneity. I now request our esteemed dignitaries to kindly take their seats in the front row as we have prepared a beautiful dance performance for you.
Manipur Malayda Masakta and Gaya Manunda Jago Ishakindan As we take a brief pause from the flow of speeches, we now welcome a cultural performance that celebrates the richness of our tradition. Presenting Wahibam Chalina Devi, a 5th semester English honors student at Dhanamanjari College of Arts. She is trained in Manipuri classical dance under Guru Nothombam Abusna Devi, a Sangeet Natak Academy Award and a top grade artist. Today, she will perform a Manipuri classical solo dance based on the vibrant Abed Khel, the playful exchange between Krishna, Radha and the gopis in the springtime of Vrindavan. Through graceful movements and expressive storytelling, the performance captures the divine essence of love and spirit of season. Please join me in welcoming her to the stage. Wahibam Chalina Devi. Please welcome me in joining Jelina Wahibam. Please give a huge round of applause for her.
Thank you, Jelena, for that beautiful and captivating dance performance. May I now invite Dr. Kundrapam Nirupama, Assistant Professor, Department of English, Dhananjali College of Arts, and convener of this conference to deliver the vote of thanks.
A very warm good afternoon to the Honorable Chief Guests, respected dignitaries, esteemed speakers, distinguished guests, faculty members, delegates, participants, research scholars, student volunteers, non-teaching staffs, media, and everyone present here. It is indeed a great privilege to deliver the vote of thanks on this memorable occasion, the inaugural function of a two-day international conference on critical humanities, language, culture, and indigeneity. First and foremost, I, on behalf of the organizing committee of this conference, would like to extend my heartfelt gratitude to Professor W. Jan Babu Singh, Vice Chancellor, Dhananjali University, for gracing this function as the chief guest. Sir, your presence and encouraging words added immense prestige and significance to the event. I would also like to thank Professor S. Anjan Navite, Principal, Nehru College of Arts and Dean, School of Humanities, Dhananjali University, for presiding over this solemn function for your thoughtful and inspiring words. I am deeply thankful to our keynote speaker, Professor Nandini Sahu, Vice Chancellor, Hindi University, West Bengal, for your motivating words and valuable perspectives. We are honored to have you here as a keynote speaker, ma'am. I would like to thank our eminent guest speakers, Professor Somdev Parekh, Professor, Department of English, Tripura University, Professor Tapu Vishwas, Professor at Bhasha Bhavan, Institute of Languages, Literature and Culture, Vishwabharati, Santiniketan, West Bengal, and Dr. Rohit Kumar Chandrakant Kalaskar, founder and head of the program, School of Artificial Intelligence, North Chiang Mai University, Thailand, for having shared their expertise and knowledge with us. Your presence today added immense value to this gathering. A special thanks to our resource persons, Professor Pratibha Rani Karmakar, Professor and former Director of Modern Languages, Jagannath University, Dhaka, Bangladesh, and Dr. Tikaram Paudel, Associate Professor, Department of Language Education, Kathmandu University, Nepal, who, despite their busy schedule, have spared their time to be part of this function virtually. To make this inaugural function and conference a success, many have contributed their time and money. In this regard, my special thanks go to Dr. Dhananjali Laurembam, Conference Secretary, and Dr. Sundari Irembam, Organizing Secretary, for being the driving force behind this conference. I am immensely thankful to the conveners and all the members of the organizing committee of this conference for having given their everything to see the accomplishment of this task ahead. My sincere gratitude also goes to all the research scholars of the Department of English, Dhananjali University, especially Kalpana, Priyadarshini, Akwilin, Guneshwari, Tonika, and Enrique, whose tireless efforts behind the scenes have made today's function a success. Your attention to detail and dedication are truly commendable. I also extend my appreciation to all the delegates and participants for joining us from near and far. Your enthusiasm and active participation are what make this conference meaningful. My thanks also go to the technical team, media, non-teaching staffs, student volunteers, and everyone for their invaluable support and contributions. Special thanks also goes to Chankhonva for the wonderful invocation and Jelena for a lovely and graceful performance. Last but not the least, I would like to thank today's Masters of Ceremony, Thangengam Priyadarshini Devi and NG Ingnitar Akulin Moyon for sharing today's program so gracefully. Once again, thank you all for being a part of this event.
Nirupama for offering the vote of thanks for expressing our collective gratitude so warmly. With that, we formally bring the inaugural session to a close. We thank you all for joining us and for making this program a success. Masigi Tharam Asibu Mapumpahan Bigduna Sharu Yadagida Makka Mayamu Kurumjari. I would also like to inform you that the lunch timing as written on the program starts from 1, but considering that we have ended the program early, lunch will be served now. Lunch for our dignitaries will be served in the teacher forum room, while participants are kindly requested to proceed to room number 25. I repeat, lunch for our dignitaries will be served in the teachers forum room, while participants are kindly requested to proceed to room number 25. Our volunteers will be present to guide you, so please don't hesitate to reach out for help. Thank you so much.